I'm Dr. Jennifer Willett. I'm an associate professor in the School of Creative Arts at the University of Windsor. I'm the director of Incubator Lab. Incubator is a hybrid laboratory at the intersection of art, science, and ecology. I'm also a bioartist. I've been working for the past 15 years in the art and biotechnology field, where I grow living artworks using the tools of science to produce contemporary art. So I'm really interested in science, and I'm like fascinated by science. And I love going to scientific labs, and I love talking with scientists. But what I do is really art. And I think the difference between the work that I make as an artist and the work that a scientist might do is in terms of our methodology. Scientists are aiming at producing objective facts. So they create a hypothesis and then a set of rules to help them create facts around that hypothesis, and they're looking for objective, repeatable results. As an artist, I don't care about any of that. I'm looking for something interesting and cool and maybe purple. So even though I work with the tools of science and I collaborate with scientists, my goals and my methodology are very artistic. So the last piece that I did is called the Great Lakes Algae Organ, and it is a traditional Dutch street organ with all of the sort of designs and whatnot. And in that organ is built a lab that grows and sustains and displays living algae samples. And the next piece in that series is called the Biosafety Puppet Playhouse, and we're just about to start construction on that. And it'll be a full-scale puppet house where you could use it for children or in live performances. The only difference between this puppet house and a more traditional one is that it will also be a sterile work cabinet. So the puppeteer will stand behind the puppet house and put their hands inside, but rather than holding puppets, they'll be holding scientific tools. And you could do things like a DNA extraction or plate bacteria dishes for live audiences in this puppet house. I have a sort of like a self-deprecating sense of humor. And I really think, on the one hand, I think these ideas are really important, but on the other hand, I think it's really important that to use like humor and play as a way to get everyone's guard down so we can have real discussions about biotechnology. So I tend not to take myself too seriously. So for example, the street organ, again, I wish I had it here for you. When you play it, it goes like dun 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 dun. And every time I play it, I have to sort of dance a little bit because it's so ridiculous. I love the Baroque Rococo designs on the front of the organ. I do all the painting myself. I work with artist assistants to do a lot of the construction because I'm not a three-dimensional builder. But I love painting, and the designs were really luscious. The gold leaf, I spent a day or two gold leafing it, and for me that's a lot of pleasure. I work in a lot of laboratories, and I'm really aware of the design aesthetics of lab equipment. I think that the lab equipment is designed to look very masculine, very sterile, very authoritative. And I think that we interpret that design as objective, but it's not. It has its own narrative and its own story. And I wanted to make lab equipment that has other narratives and other stories, particularly equipment that would be more open to daily life, to women, to children, to understanding biotechnology as being integrated in more general life, but also maybe in entertainment or art historical sense. So I think for me it's political, and then it's also aesthetic. It'll be very beautiful. People are really scared of biotechnology. And so when I talk about my projects, people don't always hear the details of what I'm saying, and they presume I'm cloning babies. So almost every project I do, at some point someone gets scared and tries to cancel it, and then I have to explain to them that we're just growing the bacteria that you find every day on the bottom of your shoe. And once I can bring them back to that understanding that what we're doing is relatively safe and that it's a very normal practice, people relax. When I was young, I was an excellent drawer. I did a ton of drawing and painting classes in my undergraduate degree. And one of my professors offered me the opportunity to go and do anatomical drawing at the local hospital. And so I started working in a human anatomy lab, and I would go in there once a week for a couple of months, and I was drawing cadavers. I did beautiful anatomical studies. I also learned, I realized being in there that I liked being in places where I wasn't supposed to be. That there was something like ritualistic about the way scientists engaged in the human anatomy lab, and that I wanted to be there. I wanted to see these practices. So that was my first time working in a lab, and since then I've always had that same feeling when I go into a new lab. And then the other sort of more political thing I like about bioart is that it makes visible the ethical dilemmas of biotechnology that is evolving today. I think these are really important questions, and I think it's important that the general public and audience members engage in those questions. And I think it's important that we engage in thinking about those questions with the life forms present with us. I think it's very easy to come up with a sort of bioethical solution when you're in a boardroom or in a classroom, but I think if you have to look the worm in the eye or the sheep in the eye, that really changes your perceptions of what might be an appropriate outcome. And so I think bioart does that for people. I think it makes bioethical dilemmas visible to people in a lived, embodied sense.